Engineer versus Designer is brought to you by the Mojo 3D printer. Now you can have 3D printing right at your desktop at a remarkably low cost. With the magic of Mojo, there's really no limit to your creativity. See it at mojo3dprinting.com.
Adam, if designing was a healthy morning breakfast, you would be the soggy, sweet marshmallows stuck to the top of the curdled milk in the cereal bowl.
I am shocked and suddenly hungry. Welcome to Engineer vs. Designer,
The podcast.
for product designers,
engineers,
and people who can name every type of 3D print material in the known universe.
upside down,
In the rain.
while drinking a beer.
My name is Adam.
And my name is Josh. Each week we bring you the freshest product design juice squeezed straight from the lobes of our esteemed guests. This week we'll be talking with the man,
The myth.
the legend,
He's from the future.
Duann Scott, designer turned communications director at Shapeways.com, the site that allows you to make and share your products with 3D printing.
Shapeways. I love that place. Welcome to the show. Our first and most important question. If you could eject 3D printed tentacles from your ocular cavities, would those be made of flexible plastic, ceramic, or mashed noodle paste?
I'm getting a bit hungry, so noodle paste would be perfect right now.
It's like 3D print your own snacks in your mouth. I like that.
Tentacles, dangerous and edible. Excellent. I would choose the same.
No doubt you would. And speaking of the disturbing idea of appendages shooting from your eye holes, Josh, grapple our minds with the octo arms of knowledge. What have you got for us this week?
Today we're speaking with our special guest, Duann Scott of Shapeways. Now, Duann, before we get into the deep personal interview segment, we're interested in Shapeways, how it works, how people can get started, how I can make a new necklace for my little girl or a wheeled prosthetic for my neighbor's three-legged dog, you know. How easy is it to get started at Shapeways?
It's simple because you just upload a file, we print it, and send it to you. And so to make a file, you need a 3D model. That's one thing which your community may already know how to do. But if you can't 3D model, you can always buy something that someone else has made on Shapeways. We'll 3D print it for you, send it to you, and you can have it to your door in a couple of days.
Okay, well, we're going to get a little bit deeper than that. I mean, obviously, I think, as you mentioned, a lot of people that listen to this show probably already know a little bit about this. But for those who don't, can you just step us through, like, what a person does if they want to use Shapeways.com?
Okay, so if you have a design, let's say you've designed the wheel for the three-legged dog for your neighbor, you pump it out in CAD, you upload it to Shapeways as an STL file. As soon as you upload it, see how much it costs in each material. You press buy, send us some money via PayPal, and we and send it to your door.
And now, where is that being sent from?
It depends what material you choose. If you choose nylon, which is our white, strong, flexible, at the moment that's printed in Eindhoven. That's a Dutch export. But if you print in stainless steel, that's printed in the US of A. And other materials are printed in the UK or Germany, depending on what you order. We're just ramping up our production here in New York. So we've just got our first machine pumping out FUD, which is our UV cured acrylic in Long Island City. So we've got New York-based manufacturing happening now. We're about to get some more machines and we're just going to have a giant factory.
You guys are expanding like crazy. The last time I spoke to you, I believe you were still in Australia. I think that you have opened new offices since then. You've got a brand new website. Looks pretty slick. Are things going really well?
They're going as fast as we can. We're trying to get more developers on board to make things happen, but we're expanding very quickly. We have an office in Eindhoven, which we first came from. We spun out of Philips Research, their lifestyle incubator, in 2010. And then now we have a New York office, we have people in Seattle, and we have a person in Thailand.
Growing like crazy.
Yeah, and so in the last 16 months in New York, we've gone from 3 people to 25.
Wow. Holy cow. Josh, I think you can start churning out those necklaces and doggy prosthetics whenever you're ready.
I feel empowered.
Push that envelope, baby. We'll be right back. So, Duann, before we get into the deep personal interview section, we wanted to get your thoughts on a new idea we had. It's called
CAD, the movie.
CAD, the movie.
That's right. And wow, okay, we wanted to see what you thought. First, do you think a movie about CAD is a good idea?
Of course.
You do?
Everybody loves CAD. Yeah.
Really?
Oh.
We got our first backer.
I cannot believe that. That's amazing.
Put it on Kickstarter, man. It'll go wild.
Okay, granted, it is a good idea. You know.
It's not.
Here's the story. It could be shot in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with the backdrop being a toilet manufacturing facility where children are forced to use drafting boards, right?
Okay.
Yeah, until they're saved by the new manager that introduces computer-aided design.
That sounds...
sort of a coming-of-age film.
That is insult to injury right there. Okay, I think Duann is right. Duann says it's a good idea. I think Duann is wrong. I think this is a really bad idea. But I was talking to somebody this week about the fact that 3D printing has been around about a quarter century. It's been around a really long time. It's not new. So I was talking to this person wondering why it's taken so long to take off, and I realized that I think maybe the main obstacle hasn't been the hardware, but the software. And let's face it, in my opinion, every CAD system on the market, SketchUp included, is totally obtuse to the uninitiated. It's still way, way, way too hard. And people like 123D are making an attempt, but it's frankly, I'm going to say it, it's a lame attempt. The software is still way too hard for an average person to use. Do you guys agree?
I think there's been improvements in the last few years, particularly, and I think there'll continue to be improvements. But it's definitely one of the barriers of entry to making your own stuff for real with 3D printing is the tools to make it happen are not always there. But we're seeing some cool stuff happen. Like one of the most interesting things I've seen recently is the output from Minecraft to 3D printing. So some guys made a free tool which plugs into the Minecraft APIs to output the Minecraft world, and then you can 3D print it at Shapeways or anywhere else. Print it at home on your desktop machine or in full color with Shapeways. And what's happened is we started to see people making stuff to print instead of just making stuff to play. Then we see a guy, I think it was at Northwestern University, did a Minecraft of his building he was doing his course in, whatever it was, let's say building A3. And then his teacher saw it, told the dean of the university. The dean saw it and said, "Can you make our whole entire campus?" And this kid spent 600 hours in Minecraft modeling a full-color, 5-foot wide printout of their campus.
Just pixel by pixel. Basically, these are three-dimensional pixels you're building this out of, one at a time.
600 hours in any software, I think you're going to get a pretty good idea of how to use it.
It didn't feel like work. It felt I was just playing the game, and the output I got to print out. Wow. So once we see gameplay exporting 3D print, it's going to be good. So it's already happened, and people are designing. Like someone designed a bracelet in Minecraft, knowing they're going to print it out.
Well, so I actually talk to people a lot who say, either my son or daughter is interested in this stuff, in designing things, in technology, in CAD and 3D printing, whatever. Or I would like for my son or daughter to be interested, or I am interested. Where do I get started? What software do you send people to if they're just a hobbyist who's interested in 3D printing something? What do you recommend as the place to start?
I sort of gauge it on the person and what operating system they're using. One of the easiest ways to get started is Tinkercad because it's WebGL based, which means you don't have to download anything. It works on all operating systems, and you can get started easily, and you can print. So that works really well. But if I'm teaching a class on, say, to teach someone how to design an iPhone case, then I recommend Inventor Fusion because it works on Mac and PC. So for me, what works on both operating systems is how I recommend. And
good point.
And then the 123D sort of group of software from Autodesk is looking like a good start. But until it's on Mac and PC, it's harder for me to recommend that.
Right.
Great insight. Stay tuned next week where we'll discuss Adam's hair gel idea. We'll be back.
It's a good one. All right, welcome back, EVD listeners. Today we have the great pleasure of speaking with Duann Scott, who heads up communications at Shapeways out of New York City.
New York City?
Yes, New York City. We wanted to have Duann on the show because he's intimately familiar with all things make, and we wanted to learn more about the man behind the tweets, articles, and images that we see on shapeways.com all the time.
Yes, indeed. First, Duann, 3D printing. What the heck just happened, man? Wasn't it just 1992? Everyone was happy paying $50,000 for a 2-part mold of a door handle. We're in the future, aren't we? Oh my gosh.
Well, as we've established, Duann, you work for Shapeways. You've talked us through a little bit of the process. How did Shapeways get started?
Shapeways started as part of Philips Lifestyle Incubator in Eindhoven in Holland. And the idea was originally to use 3D printing to customize Philips products. They got Peter Weimarshausen to take the project on board. He looked at 3D printing. He went to a 3D printing, what are they called, where people stand in a cold, highly lit room and show their printers. He went to a 3D printing event and saw the potential being way beyond what was in the brief for him. And so he opened it up to say, let anyone 3D print whatever they want and build it and they will come, sort of dealo. So he took Philips's idea and took it another direction. After a few months, Shapeways was launched and started to grow end on end every month, rapid growth. And Philips saw what was happening and said, you guys are growing too quickly for us to handle. So if you want to continue to grow, you need to spin out from us and get away and grow faster and bigger. And so in 2010, we spun out of Philips Research Labs and with funding by Union Square Ventures and Index Ventures, moved to New York City, and the rest is history.
All right. So now you're in charge of communications at Shapeways, but you actually started out as an industrial designer. What was the progression here, and what got you interested in design initially?
Interested in design. Okay, so I was a musician. I was touring, sleeping on couches, working like low-end jobs in between, and it got kind of boring, as in my chances of world fame seemed to be slipping away by the second. So I thought I'd try something else. I actually went to study music, and in my preferences I had another option, so I went industrial design at a last-minute thing, and I got into the industrial design course. And so I started designing. I ended up working on all these bespoke projects in Australia, because in Australia, manufacturing, like the US, has been crushed. There's very little industrial design happening, very little manufacturing. It's all outsourced. So I was looking at my qualifications as I left with my parchment underneath my arm, and what can I do with this education I have, being able to pump CAD and having nowhere to pump it. So I was working on bespoke projects for artists and architects, interior designers, and I was thinking, why do I have this skill that I'm not using? I thought, how can it be used in the future? How can bespoke products happen in design in the same way it's happening in interiors? And I thought 3D printing was the way to go. And so I started doing research into how 3D printing might be able to make mass customization happen. So I started doing a PhD, and then soon after, Pinocchio started up, and then Shapeways. I started writing for Pinocchio, then Shapeways, and then now I've joined the Shapeways team full-time and dropped my PhD because I'd rather be making it happen than
wow. All right. Well, so what would you say is one of your favorite objects you've ever seen printed on Shapeways?
The Strand Beast is always impressive, which is, I don't know if you know, it's a miniature version of Theo Janssen's kinetic sculpture. It's got, I think, 72 moving pieces, and it comes out the machine fully articulated. So I think that's a good representation of what's possible with complex moving parts, and to prove that complexity is free with 3D printing, which I think is really, really important. So it's the reverse of anything mass-produced. Anytime you have a moving part or a customization or multiple parts, that's when it gets expensive in design, usually in manufacturing. But with 3D printing, it's the opposite, where customization is free, complexity is free. It's just about mass. The other one of my favorites is Bathsheba Grossman's Klein bottle opener, because it opens beers.
That is cool. We'll definitely link both those on the episode here. One of my favorite projects that we actually just had on SolidSmack is the shoes that were made by designer Janina Aline.
All right.
It's a really interesting story. She found a modeler via Shapeways who created the models for her. And, of course, you guys printed them. Are you finding this happening a lot? How else are people collaborating on Shapeways?
Yeah, it's a big thing in our forums. We have a section for people who want to offer their skills to 3D model, and a section for people who want to say they want something made but don't know how to model. And that's the way for them to get together. And we see lots of projects happen, especially with artists who don't know how to 3D model but want to have an idea or a sketch, and they work, which is beautiful, work across continents. So we've had a Scottish guy working with a Dutch designer and it getting shown in London and then touring to New York, and it's beautiful artworks. So we see that happen a lot, and I think there's been a couple of projects shoes being 3D printed for fashion designers using Shapeways 3D modelers. And there's a couple of guys who are actually running their businesses now, purely 3D modeling for people, for 3D print. And the last time I spoke to the guy, something like 78% of his, I say 78 because 80 is too high, 78% of his clientele Shapeways forums.
That's really amazing. I mean, it's kind of going back to an old like craftsman model where you have these craftspeople who know the craft of CAD, and you have other, designers working with them. That's really interesting.
That's why it's such a great skill to have. You're so valuable to so many people. It used to be like, you used to learn as a young man how to fix a car, and then you'd help people fix a car.
Right.
Or you know how to do something. And now you learn how to 3D model and you can help everybody.
Now,
and, mass-produced products have only been around for a few years, really,
right,
in the scheme of things. And before that, everything was bespoke and made on demand for you.
Right.
And so what you got was exactly what you wanted, not some variation of that.
Or not the lowest common denominator kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you make it in mass, you make it for everybody. And when you make it for everybody, you make it for nobody. So there's a gap between what you want and what you get. And so the idea with designing for 3D printers is you get exactly what you want. And so if you can't design and you can find a designer to make it exactly what you want, then you get what you want. If it's a pair of shoes with dragon's teeth on them, or a sculpture, or a hinge for your thingo that does the Watson.
Now, on a totally different subject, you live in New York City now. I believe you were relatively recently transplanted. We happen to stalk you on Instagram. You post a lot of great pics of your city life. What do you like most about living in New York?
Diversity and depth of culture. So there's everything, and there's a lot of it, and there's there's depth. Whether it's tacos, or it's designers, whether it's beer, or really good food. Whatever you want, it's here, and there's lots of it.
I like that every category of good thing in your life is food.
Yeah. Very important. Very important.
And there's so many. It's a fertile place. There's so many creative people. So I can go into a group of people, and there'll always be someone who will engage in being able to use 3D printing and design and making something happen. People make stuff happen here, so it's really good place to be.
So I'm a little more interested in what you do. I'm sure what you do involves everything from ham radio operation to tweets and way more. What's the favorite part of your job?
Finding the stories of what people are using 3D printing for. I think it's the most rewarding part, is because we've got a limited understanding of what's possible. And by investigating what people are doing, we are seeing trends of what is possible and what may happen in the future with that. So that's the main thing, is seeing what people do and how it changes their lives.
Now, on the other side of things, though, I'm sure there are challenges associated with this job as well. What's the most difficult part of your job?
That time exists.
During that time, always holding you back. Never enough hours in the day.
Space I can handle, but time.
Yeah, really though. Are you noticing a difference in what maybe an engineer submits as opposed to a designer or maybe even an artist? Or do they, ask for different things?
Yeah, we see, because we're wide open, we accept any file from any person and try and do anything they want. So we see people who are throwing stuff together in SketchUp, which is really, really rough and barely printable, and like it's almost 3D illegible. So we have some struggles with that. Then we have people doing really advanced works who are obviously trained designers or engineers who really know what they're doing, and they want specific details to be perfect. Then we see the guys who are doing miniatures, like a miniature airplane, which is like 1/177th or something crazy. And these things are tiny. Yeah. They want absolute perfection in their 3D prints, and it's really hard to meet all those people's needs simultaneously across the board, but we do the best we can.
Now, you mentioned the guys doing this, and I'm actually just curious about the girls doing it. What do you know anything about the demographics? What percentages are male versus female? How old are your users as well?
Yeah, it's I'd say 85% male demographic who use and engage in Shapeways, and the ages range from, let's say, 9 to 75, but primarily.
That is a huge
range. It's a big range, but you got to have a sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
The sweet spot would be male under 40.
Okay. And so, what are some things to remember that you can pass along to the listeners about printing their first thing on Shapeways? What's some stuff they should keep in mind if they want to have a successful print?
Don't use SketchUp.
Don't use SketchUp. Design for the material. Look at the materials and design for the material. If there's two main things you sort of need to know: is what tool you're going to use to design this thing, and what material you're going to use to design it for. So does that make sense? Hang on. What tool you design it and what material you're going to design for, because not all materials are the same. So if you design for plastic, look at the design rules for plastic and design those wall thicknesses and those details. If you're going to design for stainless steel, design for that. If you want to make an iPhone case, get a solid modeler. If you want to make a character, a surface modeler or something like ZBrush or something like that. So it's about choosing the right tools and the right materials. Do a little bit of research before you start throwing stuff at the wall, and you'll have more chance of success.
Now, a lot of people are they're starting to be able to go down the street to a fab shop or something. Do you think the future of 3D printing and the fab shop are going to hurt the future of 3D print services like you guys?
No, I think that they complement each other. If you want something fast, use a desktop printer. If you want something with different materials, you use Shapeways. If you're part of a collective, then maybe you have access to different printers there as well. And if you need volume, then you use Shapeways. Like we had a guy on Kickstarter who had these skulls on Kickstarter. I don't know if you saw it. It was Joshua Harker. These filigree skulls.
Have one set.
Those were amazing. Yeah, Josh has one.
They're beautiful.
Love it.
Awesome. Yeah, he was trying to raise $500 on Kickstarter so he could have an exhibition in Chicago. He put it up on Kickstarter and offered 3D printed skulls and T-shirts and posters and all sorts of stuff. Within the first 2 days, he raised $17,000, and he raised $79,000 worth of these skulls.
Wow!
So he had to manufacture, distribute basically 1,000 skulls. So we got all our machines lined up with skulls. We printed them all out, and we sent 3 pallets, 1,000 skulls to his door in Chicago.
Now, I want to throw one more question out there off script here. I'm actually curious. One of the things people always ask me, the first question anybody asks me about 3D printing if they're uninitiated, is what would I do with it? Like what would I print? And when I look at the stuff that comes out of Shapeways, frankly, a lot of it is jewelry, fashion, fine art things, little sculptures and stuff. And not to denigrate that, that's great stuff. But I think in order for this to really take off and for this to be kind of a normal household thing, it seems like people might want to print other kinds of things. What do you see as the future of things that can be printed?
Well, the best thing you can do is design a 3D print to meet your exact needs. So what you see on the Shapeways gallery is the stuff that's for sale. And that's like the very, very tip of the iceberg. Most of it is behind the scenes and gets made for people and sent directly to people or to their clients. So one issue I had was my kid's stroller broke. It was out of warranty. I was in Australia. The closest place was like 750 miles away. I rang up the customer service and they said, "You're out of luck. If you want to fix it, you have to send it to Sydney and they'll repair it, send it back to you. It's going to cost you about $250. I was not really happy with the cost of that. And so I looked online and I couldn't find replacement parts. I couldn't find repairs, but I found someone who had instructions on how to open up the stroller and look at some parts. And so I busted open the stroller with a butter knife and a bottle opener. 2 times. I found the part that was just a simple alloy part. I 3D modeled it in about 4.5 minutes. I printed it out in stainless steel and it was sent to me. It cost me $25.
Wow.
So one tenth of the cost.
That's an amazing testimonial.
Yeah, and this was like I paid it all out of my own pocket. It wasn't like a Shapeways project. It was just me fulfilling my need, and my wife was happy that I was involved in 3D printing for the first time. It also gave me the opportunity to share that design. So now I put that design up on Shapeways, so anyone can 3D print it and repair their own Bugaboo stroller with this. And there's some printed every week. Like every week, people are solving the problem from me solving my problem.
Great. Well, we are out of time. Thank you, Duann. Having you on the show has been even more fun than that time Adam printed a zebra attack with nothing but cardboard and black and white punches. It is possible.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, no worries, dude. If you'd like to send moist, unused cardboard to EVDHQ, please address that to Josh. He will enjoy it.
I will, and if you would like to send monochrome punches to EVD, what? Please address them to Josh so I can throw them in Adam. We love your lack of comments. Please continue to not leave them, / leave them please at EngineerVsDesigner.com.
And if you'd like to find out what makes Josh projectile vomit his thoughts first thing in the morning, be sure to like us, +1 us, tweet us, or whatever else, as social media has been correlated with leaving you questioning someone's mental capacity.
Thanks for that. The show is edited by Simon Martin. Our theme music is by Ross Hartman.
We'll see you next week, and remember, 3D printing a fake arm and wearing it as a hat looks creepy, but covers any premature receding hairline you might have.
I need to look into that.
You should. It might help.
Help what?
Look out! Engineer vs. Designer is brought to you by Mojo 3D Printer, a world-class professional 3D printer for only $185 a month. To find out how you can give your big idea a little mojo, visit mojo3dprinting.com.
A production of EVD Media.